Continuing here in week 2, the PowerPoint, where I'm going to skip over to slide 17 because slide 16 basically reiterates what I just said in the previous video. Big ideas within the Declaration of Independence, obviously the idea of representative government. The framers of our system of government sought to establish a representative government, okay? The people govern themselves through the selection of representatives. Say, America is called a democracy, but technically democracy is actually shorthand for the fact that America is a constitutional republic with a representative democracy. Okay, America is technically a republic. What is that? What does a republic mean? A republic means that we elect individuals who then in turn make decisions for us. Okay, so that's what Republican government is. Okay, we don't make all of the decisions at the national, state, and local level. We have delegated, councilmen or mayors at the local level, or governors or state legislatures at the state level, or presidents or congressmen, right, at the national level. We're not making all of the decisions. We have in other words, there's individuals one step removed from us making decisions. That's Republican government. And one of the things you've got to understand is, so when we say America is a democracy, okay, democracy is shorthand for constitutional republic with a representative democracy. The founders had an aversion. They didn't like pure democracy. Okay, let me show you why. In pure democracy, the people make all the decisions. Okay, and which can sound like a really good thing. Power to the people, let the people decide, and we the people, yeah, we all want to make the decisions. But think it through. If America was a pure democracy at the local, state, and national level, you wouldn't have a life, and most likely you wouldn't be taking this class, and most likely you wouldn't have a job. Because what you would be doing is you would be called upon to appear in daily local decision making within a local government, or you would have to be going to Lansing to make decisions at the state level daily, or you might have to head out to Washington, D.C. to make decisions daily, right? In other words, thank goodness the founders created a representative democracy, okay? So we can have a life, right? So we can go to school and we can have jobs and we can go home at night and stay local or whatever. In other words, if not, we would be doing everything, okay? We've got to understand that. The founders also were very, very aware historically of what happened with democracies in ancient Greece and other countries, okay? Take ancient Greece. You might have 1,000 people in Athens making decisions because it was usually the men who had property who could make the decisions, okay? And it was a smaller group. Women didn't have it, and slaves didn't have it, and children didn't. In other words, it was a select group of people. But it was a pure democracy. There was no delegation of decision making. So every day you had to go to make decisions, right? And it would happen. And what would happen is these democracies would be very emotional. They would be very agitated, right? They would be very, stick your finger up into the wind, and whichever way the wind's blowing, they're making decisions, okay? In other words, you're kind of getting whiplash. And city-states would get whiplash as they made decisions based on emotions and who was shouting the loudest and making the most vigorous argument, okay? That's something called demagoguery, okay? Which you don't have to remember that, but that's the phrase. That's the term. And so here's what would happen. Things like this would happen, okay? Sparta would do something that would offend the Athenians. So the Athenians, democracy would get together like, we're ticked at the Athenians, let's go to war. So they all vote, yeah, let's go to war, right? So they send a ship off to go attack Sparta, okay? Because they realized that Sparta did something that harmed them, so they want to go take them out, okay? Well, what happens is 2-3 days later, they find out, wait a minute, it wasn't the Spartans that did it, it was the Malians that did it, okay? So they say, we need to stop this ship going off to war. Let's vote to send a ship to stop the first ship to go to war, yeah, right? So they vote, and they do that, and so they send the second ship out to go to the first ship to tell them to not go to war against Sparta, okay? And then 3 days later, somebody finds out, no, it really was the Spartans. So they send a third ship to go overtake the second ship to tell it not to tell the first ship to go to war. Anyway, you get what I'm saying, okay? That kind of craziness went on all the time, okay? That was pure democracy. The founders were like, wait a minute, no. We do not want the American people to get whiplash so that they're in direct democracy, okay? Because people become irrational. People become emotional. The spur of the moment. We've got to fix this right now, okay? The idea of Republican government is people are one step removed from the fray, so they can make decisions more calmly, more rationally. Think of your old days when you're a little kid, right? Sit in the corner and think about what you've done, okay? That's kind of, maybe a bad analogy, but that's kind of the idea of representative democracy, okay? People are sitting in the corner and thinking about what's going on coolly and deliberately and making better decisions. Or if you prefer, another example of, okay, let me paint another picture. Forgive me, I'm a football fan, okay? So it's Bears-Packers. It's late December. Playoff position's on the line, okay? The game is tied. It's a crazy game, right? Emotions are high. It's a rivalry game. And people are, well, how do I say this? They've been imbibing a lot of adult beverages, okay? So it's the third quarter, okay? So can you imagine that kind of a frenzied situation? It's a rivalry game. It's late in December. Playoffs are on the line. People have been imbibing adult beverages. And suddenly they're like, hey, let's vote on immigration right now. Okay, could you imagine, would you make a good decision if everyone in that kind of state of mind suddenly voted on something really, really important? No, you'd never do that, okay? That's how the founders thought about pure democracy. They're like, no, not gonna do it, okay? So just remember that as we talk about the move in the present era. We want more popular democracy, power to the people, okay? Remember that and take that into consideration when people are arguing for the removal of the Electoral College. Okay, when people are arguing for, we don't want the legislator to make the decision, we want a referendum, we want to decide for ourselves in a referendum election or something like that. Think through how the founders thought pure democracy, what it would lead to, and how it would lead to bad decision making. Okay, just keep that into consideration. Okay. Okay, so let's go to slide number 18, all right? Challenges inherent with representative government. Representative government requires that the majority, through its elected representatives, have the power to rule, okay, right? Majority rules. However, if you want to create a limited government, it requires that the majority rule stops at the point where it infringes on the legitimate rights in the interest of the minority, okay? So if you're in the majority, man, you're loving it, right? You got the power. But what if you're in the minority, okay? Are your rights going to get trampled upon, okay? The founders did not want pure majoritarian politics. In other words, majority wins, right? They recognized that was part of democracy, but you better put some speed bumps in that. You better slow it down. You better limit the power of government, because if you don't, majorities are going to trample on minorities. Okay, so the solution they had was that the Constitution provides for a majority rule, but they have built-in restrictions on the power of the majority and its elected representatives. Okay, what ultimately became the Bill of Rights. Okay, the Bill of Rights protects minorities or protects individuals against the overarching power of the state and majority rule. Okay, so the founders were very concerned about that. They realized, man, if we let this genie of democracy out of the bottle, you better limit it, because if not, majority is going to run roughshod over minorities. Okay, slide number 19, from the Declaration of Independence to the Constitution. Okay, realize that the Declaration of Independence was not a frame of government. It was not calling for a type of government. It was a call to revolution. It was not a framework or a form of government. The ideas that the Declaration contained, such as liberty, equality, individual rights, self-government, lawful powers, it became the heart of what would become the Constitution. Okay, the apples of gold in the settings of silver. Okay, you're ordering liberty. What is a constitution? A constitution is a fundamental law that defines how a government will legitimately operate. It's the method for choosing its leaders. It's the institutions through which these leaders will work. It's procedures they must follow in making policy, and the powers they can lawfully exercise, okay? So you've got a constitution, okay? That is the fundamental law of the land, how that government legitimately operates, okay? it is over, okay? It has superiority over laws written by Congress at the national level, and in our system of government, laws written by states at the state level, and it has authority over what they call local ordinances. Local ordinances, what a local community, it's basically laws, but they call them ordinances, okay? Article 6 of the Constitution says this, the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. It governs all the rest of these lesser laws, okay? So just recognize that, okay? And so again, the principle of ordered liberty is the Constitution orders the liberty that was won through the War of Independence against Great Britain, and it was chronicled in the Declaration of Independence, okay? It's, again, the Constitution is the highest law of the land, and again, it's something in Article 6 called the Supremacy Clause, okay? So I'm going to stop there, and we'll resume in slide number 20.